Happy Mother's Day, my wizards. It's Dev from the place we like magic, and today we're talking about something every magic player enjoys from time to time, and that's combos. Personally, I'm a fan of the pizza flavor, but I'd rather really just have potato chips, and for that matter, wait, what? What kind of combos? Oh.
Yeah, just waking up can tell it's gonna be a great day. Look out my window, sun shining on the freeway. For one day I'm getting paid enough. I'm barely out of bed, I'm already blazing up.
Infinite combos. Turns out, that's what we're talking about. And I knew that. The whole time, I promise. But in any case, we can actually do a bunch of these combos because of one of the coolest new cards in Dominaria, Teshar, Ancestor's Apostle. The bird is the word, right? Actually, though, this guy's an apostle, so this bird spreads the word. Dumb jokes aside, though, this guy obviously enables a bunch of gross combos in Commander that people are posting all over the internet right now. And there's even things in Modern that you can do to abuse this infinitely, and people are trying to figure out the best way to do that in that format. But even in Standard, this lets us do a bunch of stupid, infinite stuff, provided we can get all the pieces in place. And that's what this video is going to be about. This is a deck tech just like usual, but I'm going to switch up the style just slightly here and do something I don't usually do, and that's tell you exactly what the deck is trying to achieve before I get into the numbers and the specifics and the cards that are built around it. Now, this is the baseline infinite combo for the deck, although there are a few different infinite combos. This is the one the deck is most looking for. So to set things up, you got to start off with a Teshar in play along with a Yahini, a Scrap Trawler, an Oneth Akhter, and a Bantu's Monument. Now, first of all, I know that's a 5-card combo, but it's actually not as hard as it looks to put together. People who are saying nay, you naysayers out there, turns out that you can actually have one or more of these creatures in the graveyard before you start this loop, and then if you cast a historic spell, Teshar will trigger, and then you can get your Scrap Trawler, your Oneth Akhter, or your Yahini out of the graveyard. So even if they kill them at some point or you have to discard them for whatever reason, it's still easy enough to put the combo back together. But let's just assume that by hook or by crook, you've got all of these pieces on the battlefield. So you might be asking, where do we go from here? Reasonable question. Let me answer that. I want you to sacrifice the Oneth Akhter to the Yahini, put it into the graveyard, and then you sack the Scrap Trawler to the Yahini. That'll trigger the Scrap Trawler, and you'll target Oneth Akhter with that ability, put the Oneth Akhter back into your hand. Then you play the Oneth Akhter from your hand. That will trigger Teshar's ability and Bantu's Monument. You'll get a drain, and you'll be able to bring back Scrap Trawler, put it directly into play. And you just repeat this process. At this point, you'll have all the pieces back into play. You can sack the Oneth Akhter to the Yahini again, sack the Scrap Trawler, get the Oneth Akhter back, play it, and then you'll get back your Scrap Trawler. You can just repeat this over and over and get infinite drains on your opponent. But that's actually just the baseline infinite combo. There are other ways to achieve infinite in this deck if you don't have all the right pieces in place. For instance, if you don't have an Oneth Akhter or a Bantu's Monument for this loop, you can always sub in Spartan Construct and Foundry Inspector. That way you can loop it and get infinite +1/+1 counters on all your creatures. So all your guys have infinite power, including your indestructible Haste Yahini and your flying Teshar. So that's another way you can win a game. And believe it or not, that's not actually all yet. I'll talk more about some of the other ways we can go infinite as I move through the individual card choices, but for now, to finish off this little bit, just know that if for some crazy unknown reason you don't like infinite combos, or you just think the 2 combos I've shown you so far are like unreasonable and they'll never happen, first of all, I can promise you they will occasionally happen, but even if they don't over the course of a given game, you can still just take your opponent like straight to Value Town. You know, we've got a bunch of Teshars in this deck, we've got a bunch of Scrap Trawlers in this deck, so if any of our creatures go to the graveyard, we have multiple ways of easily getting them back, and that'll give a lot of mid-range control players huge headaches. It's tough to deal with a deck that just essentially nulls most of your removal, which we do pretty well. So again, even if you never assemble a ridiculous garbage combo in a game, you can still just outvalue them in the long run by getting card advantage out of your graveyard. The deck does that very well too. But let's back off the combos for just a second so I can discuss all the individual snowflakes that make up this avalanche here. Starting with Beakface again. Let me move back to this card for just a second so that we can squeeze in some extra tech. Now, first of all, we're going to play the playset here. All 4 copies without a doubt, because not only is it so integral to the combo, but silver lining, you know, if you already have a Teshar out, and you draw another Teshar, well, you can just effectively trade that. You can convert the Teshar in your hand into creatures in your graveyard. Because, yeah, you can play your second Teshar, you'll only get to keep one of the Teshars. But when you play it, you'll trigger the Teshar that's already on the battlefield. You get a creature out of your graveyard. So, effectively, you're trading the Teshar that's in your hand for a creature out of your graveyard, which isn't a bad deal sometimes. Now, as far as our other combo pieces, I'm going to play 3 copies of Yahenni in the deck. I don't think we need the playset here, because it pretty much universally feels bad to draw a second copy of Yahenni. Almost all the time. So we've got different ways of digging for Yahenni if we need to. So I don't think we need to play the whole playset here. But Yahenni's obviously vital to the combo, so if we want to do anything really disgusting, we have to have her around. I'm going to play all 4 Scrap Trawler. This isn't legendary, unlike the last couple of cards we've looked at. So we can play a playset pretty much guilt-free here, and it's another really important part of the combo that doesn't necessarily only do combo stuff, just like Teshar. This is another card that can just grind out value for you. That's all you really need it for, but if you can put the combo pieces in place, it also does that. But don't think that you absolutely have to. Again, just like its Bird Brethren, this thing can just like bring stuff back to the graveyard over and over, you know? Like, that's really, really helpful in terms of grinding out advantage over a long game. So don't think Scrap Trawler is just for combos either. This is a fine card on its own. We'll also play all 4 Oneth Achters. We'll just do that. We need this for the combo. And it's a fine early blocker. Again, Oneth Akhter can be in the graveyard when we start the combo, and we really don't care. We can just get it back with Teshar's trigger ability. So, or Scrap Trawler's triggered ability. You know, there's tons of ways to get this back. So we're not too worried about having it in the graveyard. When we start the combo, we can still combo off. So I'm going to play all 4 here because we're going to want a chump blocker in the early game. We actually don't have a whole lot of early game defense. So since we don't care whether or not it's in the yard, we'll just throw this in front of, early game stuff. I'm also going to run the full playset of Bantu's Monument in the deck because we absolutely have to find it in order for the combo to go off, so I'll do that. And Bantu's Monument doesn't have the ability to be returned from the graveyard with Teshar's ability, like Yahenni can and Scrap Trawler can, so I definitely want to run the playset of this card. But there are options. In case you're a little uncomfortable with running 4 of a monument, you can always cut it down to 3 copies or even 2 copies and put in an Oketra's Monument or 2. If you want to do that, Infinite Creatures is a possibility, but you have to wait a turn. So they can sweep you with Fumigator, Sweltering Suns, or just hit you with Settle the Wreckage, and that would feel really bad. So it's not quite as reliable as just draining them out. But if you wanted another option even, then you could always stretch these slots by including even Ronus's Monument. If you wanted to do that, because creatures just get, trample and infinite +2/+2. So trample on an indestructible infinite power Yahenni is also a way to win the game. If you have a Ronus's Monument out, that wouldn't be too bad, but I think the most reliable way is Bantu's Monument, so I'll play all 4. Now, we're also going to play 4 copies of Spartan Construct in the deck, and yeah, you got me. This is mostly for infinite looping, but I actually kind of ended up liking this card a good bit, This is another early game chump blocker. We need those if we can get them. That actually leaves its power on the battlefield when it dies, so it can make your Teshars a little bit bigger, your Yahennis. It can actually give Oneth Akhter some power. That's kind of cool, fly over for 1 if you want to, block, small flying creatures. And it gives it 3 toughness. Oneth Akhter with 3 toughness will block a lot of early game guys. So you can achieve that on turn 1, just drop Oneth Akhter and drop Spartan Construct. It's actually not a terrible start. So Spartan Construct actually turned out not to be bad. And believe it or not, even if you're not necessarily going infinite, like if you don't have a Foundry Inspector out to reduce its cost to 0, you can just do the combo as many times as you have a mana for, and that can make your creatures really big, really fast, even if you're not technically going infinite. So there's actually kind of a lot of things I like about Spartan Construct. I just wanted another small creature in the deck that has the capability of doing something nasty if we go infinite with it, and it fits all the criteria. Now, we'll also play 3 copies of Foundry Inspector in the deck, and I'm only playing the 3 copies because we're really kind of heavy on the 3 drops in this deck. We needed to prioritize the 2 drop slot a little bit more. I was on 4 copies, but I do think shaving 1, we really don't lose much from only playing 3 copies here. It's not the most important loop in the world that we get Sparring Construct over and over, and even in a deck with 26 artifacts, it's actually not that important that we decrease their casting cost. So it is really cool sometimes, don't get me wrong, but I think that the other slots we're using in the deck, we're using a little bit better than a 4th copy of this, but I still want to put it in the deck because it still does decrease the cost of our artifacts, makes us go infinite with Spartan Construct, makes our renegade maps free, and blah blah. Like, it's still a fine card with a little bit of power on its side too. 3 power ain't bad if you're getting in with it. So a lot of cool things about this. I'll run at least the 3. But yet another artifact creature that we're playing in this deck that has the possibility of going infinite for us is the 3 copies of Gleaming Barrier, which is way better than it might look. I haven't really mentioned this yet. This is obviously a really budget deck, and I'll let you know exactly how cheap once we get to the power rankings, but it's cheap. So get hyped for that. So we have to play a bunch of these 5 and 10 cents cards, but this fits the criteria and is way better than it looks. I'm actually kind of in love with all the things that this card does in the deck. It's an early game blocker. We need to do that. We had to fill out our 2-drop slot. This is one of the better artifact creatures we can do that with. And above all else, this can infinite loop too if we have a Foundry Inspector out. Because Foundry Inspector makes this cost 1. When it dies, we get a treasure. So if we're sacking it to Yahini over and over, then what we're doing is we're basically just sacrificing the treasure to make this free. And obviously if you have 2 Foundry Inspectors in play, then you can get infinite mana off of that loop. Not really sure what you're going to do with it, but you can. And we're also going to obviously play 4 copies of Renegade Map. This just does so much in this deck, and it's being played in a lot right now, and it does even more in our deck. Because just like in other decks that need artifacts, it's an artifact for like Scrap Trawler. It's a very, very low investment. It's a 1-drop. We need a few of those in this deck so we can get things started early. Fixes our mana. Make sure that, our draws are better later on in the games. We won't draw as many lands statistically if we're digging them out of our deck with a Renegade Map. It's a historic card for Teshar, so sometimes, ripping a Renegade Map on turn 12 usually feels bad, but when we trigger a Teshar with it, we get a Scrap Trawler or whatever else out of our graveyard. It's actually a great 1-mana play, just it lowers the land count, ups the artifact count. Renegade Map does everything in this deck, so we'll play all 4. Now we're also going to play 2 copies of Sarah Disciple in the deck. Now this isn't entirely necessary, which is why I'm only running the 2 copies, but it is another way to go infinite, because the whole time you're looping Oneth Achters or Sparring Constructs or whatever you end up looping, the whole time you're doing that loop, this is getting +1/+1 for every time you actually cast that Oneth Akhter. So it's just yet another win condition. If you don't have a Bantu's Monument out, or you don't have Sparring Construct, and you're just looping the same Oneth Akhter over and over, this is a way to actually swing in and get the victory. And yeah, it's susceptible to things like Seal Away, Settle the Wreckage, and stuff like that. Even Fatal Push will kill it. So it's not as great of a win condition as like a Monument is, but it's still semi-reliable and another way to win the game, just in case you don't have 1 or more pieces. But to finish off the main deck here, we're going to play 4 copies of Board the Weatherlight because we should, right? I think we should, This helps us find whatever missing combo pieces we need, and it fills out the 2-drop slot. Helps you get set up on turn 2. If you don't have your Yahini or your Scrap Trawler, your Teshar, whatever, this can dig pretty deep and help you find them. And even like really late in the game, you top deck this on turn 7 or 8, it can still help you find any missing pieces. It just help you get extra advantage. We're playing over 30 historic cards in this deck, so this will always find, one really good thing for you, and you'll probably have multiple things to choose from when you do board the Weatherlight. So I think we definitely play a playset of this, no questions asked. Now we're playing 21 lands in the deck, and this is actually a pretty budget mana base. You'll note that I didn't put in, Concealed Courtyard or Isolated Chapel in the deck, but if you had the money, you could do that. You could absolutely do that. So, do it if you got them, but if you don't, this is still a serviceable mana base. We get 4 black-white tap lands. We get Spire of Industry, which is still like 250, but it's worth playing, so we'll do that. And we get, to play neat stuff like Inventor's Fair, which helps us find combo pieces once we have some artifacts in place. And we get Zhalfirin Void, which actually doesn't stretch the mana base too much. Most of our cards are artifacts, and Renegade Map helps us find whatever colors we need. So this doesn't stretch things much and helps us find combo pieces and scry away bad draws. So I was really excited to get to finally try out Zhalfirin Void, and it's really good. But here's the sideboard I'm running here, and it's pretty simple. We got 4 Duress in there against the control matchup. Most of this is against the control matchup, in case you can't tell. The 4 Scrap Heap Scrounger is in there, also against control. And you could put this in the main deck if you wanted to. I'm playing Gleaming Barrier instead. I'd rather have a creature that can block, and Scrap Heap Scrounger can't do that. But it will come in against control to be yet another resilient piece to just make them pull their hair out. And Scrap Heap will do that. Hope of Gearper is in there too, for mostly control, because they're the ones that play sweepers the most, and we hate sweepers. And that's what Hope of Gearper mostly helps set up against. But do note too that this can help you if you can get in with Hope of Gearper during your combat step. Move to your second main phase, sacrifice Hope of Gearper, and that can help you get in, all of your combo unencumbered. So I really like that about it too. And if all else fails, by the way, this is another cheap artifact creature that if you have a Foundry Inspector, you can go infinite with and loop it over and over. So this is another thing that may make a case for the main deck. I'm just really not sure what to take out for it, honestly. Now, there is a laundry list of cards I want to quickly run through as fast as I can here. Walking Ballista, got to talk about that. Also, Metallic Mimic, Karn, and Gideon are all good choices here. Gideon's yet another win condition that will keep us in the game while we're trying to put our combo together. If we can't lose the game, as long as we have Gideon out, that gives us extra time to get our combo in place. So I think Gideon could have slots here. I'm just really not sure where to fit him in, but I think that Walking Ballista is a must. If you've got the money to even play one copy, you play Walking Ballista. No matter what goes to the graveyard, as long as you have a Scrap Trawler in play, you can get Walking Ballista back in your hand. Even if it's not Oneth Akhter, but even if it's, a Renegade map that you sacrifice while you have a Scrap Trawler in play, well, that puts Walking Ballista back in your hand, so you want to play Walking Ballista. And it gives us another defensive option where we really don't have a whole lot of those. So I want to play this. I definitely want to play Walking Ballista if you have the dollars. As far as Metallic Mimic goes, there is a blue-white and even mono-white Constructs deck in this format. Obviously, Metallic Mimic's already a construct, but you name construct with it. And that way you get Walking Ballista and Scrap Trawler and a bunch of other constructs in this deck that can all get counters. And this is a great 2-drop. Again, we have to fill out our 2-drop slot. And this is probably better than just about any other option, especially in a deck full of constructs. So Metallic Mimic is a really sweet option, and it's easy to bring him back over and over if he does die. So yeah, we'll play that. And obviously Karn. I know it's like $50 a pop at this point, but it's very, very good in this deck because it's yet another win condition, draws cards to make sure that we get to our combo or whatever we're trying to do. And it just makes huge guys, just 26 artifacts. So this can just pop out like 5/5s or bigger really, really easily. Karn's a ridiculous piece in this deck, just like he is in just about every deck in Standard, but he's even better than usual in a build like this. But we're finally at the power rankings here. Sorry about that. What was this video? Half an hour? I apologize. But in any case, power rankings, final score, 61. Now, seems like a low score, but the deck is crazy cheap. This deck is only about $35 or $40 right now, which is a steal. Yeah, if you add the Walking Ballistas and the lands, you can get well over $100 really quick, but just with this serviceable budget version that has a lot of infinite combos and still a ton of value, even if you never get a combo, we're only paying like $35, and it's a blast to play. And it has the scores a combo deck has. For the most part, lots of synergy. This deck boasts crazy resiliency, though, too. In case you didn't notice that maxed out score there, but we have almost no defense. We're not necessarily as consistent as we want to be because we have to get so many pieces in place, but it does help the consistency that even if we don't get a combo, we can still do stuff. So we're a little bit fragile. We're not playing all the most powerful cards in the world, but the categories we care about, we max out in this deck, son. So give this thing a shot. This might be like purely the most fun deck that I've covered so far all season. Like, this deck is a blast to play, so give it a shot. It's only like $35-$40 right now, but you don't want to overpay even for a cheap deck. So if you are interested in checking this deck out, click the first link in the description and head on over to my boys at TCG Playa. They help sponsor my content. They're good folks, good, solid dudes. And if you just click that first link, you'll not only be able to view the deck list in one convenient location on their website, but you can order any pieces that you need or the whole thing from there, all for a really, really cheap price. Again, as far as infinite combo decks that function when they don't even get their combo, this thing could be way more expensive. So give this thing a shot if you can. Click the link. And I'm pretty sure I'm tapped out for now, but you guys know what to do. Subscribe if you're new, or if you just haven't done it yet, hit the bell for the notifications, and like the video if you enjoyed the video. All that's super low effort. If you want to go a step beyond, you can always follow me on Twitter at SBMTGDev for more stupid decks like this, or you can you can support me on Patreon. That'd be really nice of you. For just $1 a month. $1 every 30 days, and you'll get access. You'll know what deck techs we're doing the day before we do them, and you'll get to vote in polls for what decks we're even doing next. So you'll get to have an effect on time and history itself for only $1 a month. So if you can, help me out. But with that, pretty sure I'm done. So I'll catch you cats later. I'm Deb from The Place. Thanks for watching, my wizards. And not just because it's Mother's Day. You got to make sure you spread love and be kind, because that's what your mama would want. Your mama probably taught you to spread love and be kind. Just because you're a teenager or an adult or whatever now, doesn't mean that those words are any less valid. Your mama would want you to spread love and be kind. She gave birth to you. She fed you. She probably did lots of other nice things for you that you're not even like aware of right now. So, be nice. Be good to your mama. Buy your mama some flowers. Spread love and be kind.